Canelo Alvarez has given a ruthless admonition while responding to the Terence Crawford vs. Israil Madrimov battle. Crawford's revisitation of the ring was set to be the marquee occasion for a Riyadh season debut bout past Saudi boundaries. Leading this pivotal occasion, Turkey Alo Sheikh promises that Crawford's weight is over. Alec told ESPN, "Nobody can bait a decent battle for him when you arrive at this season, old enough and magnificent. You start your ruckuses, assuming they give you the right cash and the right warriors, you will take it. Nobody gave him that over the most recent 4 years." He further added, "And I think this is a disgrace since we lost 4 years with one of the most mind-blowing ability in confining we've seen the most recent 20 years. We might have basically seen 4 or 5 additional battles from him over the most recent 4 years." Crawford entered the ropes at least a time or two in the earlier year, which was 2019. Over the most recent 4 years, he has participated in one battle. One of boxing's constant issues is latency, where contenders and advertisers frequently arrive at an impasse in exchanges fighters close by their directors are similarly essentially as chargeable as the advertisers in this dance of deferrals. Anyway, the competitors endure the worst part, unfit to keep up with max execution as they age. Crawford needs such a lot of cash, so you need to truly trust that the brilliant ticket will come around the merry-go-round. Madoff's advertiser Eddie Hearn told ESPN on Wednesday as the contenders held a public exercise at the St. Nick Monica Wharf. And that is an issue with a ton of these top contenders. They're on such a lot of cash they could battle once here, Hearn added, so eventually that will find him. He's a major hash one in the battle this week, yet no one can tell out of nowhere. You look a bit corroded. Perhaps you get somewhat old. Perhaps you go up one division excessively far, yet he's a quality warrior. I mean, pound for pound #1, as I would like to think. With his exhibition against Spence, Crawford leaped to the highest point of his pound for pound rankings, being more appealing than he has in his celebrated profession. Subsequent to Dex Spence and Cycle 2 with a straight passed on to the head and a right poke from a southpaw position, the switch hitting contender laid out the tone. Crawford tireless beat Spence, leaving both of his eyes battered and wounded. The seventh round saw Spence hit the material 2 times seriously, preparing for the ref to call an end. 2 adjusts later, with triumph, got Crawford started to evaluate his next challenge. Charlo, the ruling undisputed boss at 154 pounds, was at ringside to root for his preparation accomplice Spence. As the ref called the finish of the match, Crawford cast a piercing gaze through the ropes. Yet only 2 months after the fact, Charlo confronted a staggering loss against Canelo at 168 pounds, lessening the charm of a possible battle with Crawford. Charlo added, "I was ready to can the rematch. I don't say whether Spence was ready to do the rematch like the agreement expressed. It didn't occur. It cost me months of my vocation, and I'm only glad to get back in the ring to show my abilities." In spite of this, Crawford actually had tempting matchups looking for him in the 154 pounds division. Duran Boots, Andis Tim Tszyu, and Virgil Ords, each a considerable undefeated influence puncher, were not too far off in the wake of feeling the type of the weight trim for the Spence battle. More intensely than expected, Crawford had set out to proceed with his vocation at junior middleweight. One of that session, he was mindful it would be his last debut at 147 pounds. Crawford said, "I resembled, man, this is all there is to it. I can't make that weight like that any longer." It was somewhat unforgiving. With August 28, Spence officially enacted his rematch proviso, having a 30-day window following the battle. In his post-battle interview, he communicated a craving for the rematch to be held at 154 pounds. As per the agreement, the victor of the underlying session had the honor to choose the weight class for their second experience. The understanding commanded that the rematch be held before the end of 2023. Yet as the months sneaked past, Crawford and his group made a few fruitless endeavors to mark the calendar for the session. On January 2nd, Harrison Whitman, lawyer for Crawford, sent an email to Spence, who addresses Hyman Boxing and works with Tom Brown, the advertiser behind PBC occasions. Crawford was remembered for the email chain. The letter said that the rematch may be legally delayed until February 24, 2024, 210 days after the battle, in case of a physical issue. Whitman composed, "Mr. Crawford is a man of guideline and stays open to a rematch with Mr. Spence. To that end, we want to be aware before the current week's over, assuming Mr. Spence needs the rematch next, and assuming this is the case, we want to examine a design for the rematch quickly." On January 5th, Brown transferred that Spence was enthusiastically expecting the rematch anyway. Spence would have to sit tight for clinical freedom. Subsequent to going through a book system the next week, Brown expected to get an update from the specialist inside 7 to 10 days. "Once we get word, we'll tell you so we can start to design the subtleties for the rematch," Brown composed. On January 9th, Spence shared Video via virtual entertainment from a wheelchair, his right eye covered with a gauze, and unveiled that he had quite recently gone through waterfall medical procedure. With an expected recuperation time of around 2 months, it was clear he wouldn't be prepared to start instructional course until long after the rematch proviso had slipped by. Crawford expected to give up. Crawford said, "I was ready to kin the rematch. I don't say whether Spence was ready to do the rematch like the agreement expressed. It didn't occur. It cost me months of my profession. And I'm only glad to get back in the ring to show my abilities. As Crawford was at last prepared to arrange an about past the Spence rematch, he ended up wrestling with lost time and botched opportunities to step into the ring again in 2023, new off a profession characterizing execution that procured him several millions as well as pushed him into the spotlight of standard games discussion. Crawford was ready for another high-profile conflict. There has never been a superior chance for Crawford to battle 2 times in a solitary year. Crawford said it certainly was disappointing given the energy that I had falling off of that battle. Everyone needed to see me battle. Everyone needed to see me back in the ring. And you hearing everything that wasn't correct about me and Spence, that I would have rather not battled him at 154. That I was frightened. And these are the things that were baffling. I was the one proceeding attempting to get the battle going." He further added, "Turkey had caught up with me and inquired as to whether I needed to do the rematch with Spence in Saudi Arabia, and I had hit Spence up to attempt to tell him that there was genuine cash on the table for us to do the rematch in Saudi. Yet I never snagged him, so I just needed to continue on the most expected confrontation anyway. Is the conflict between and Crawford this legendary clash vows to break the 1 million compensation for each view purchase's achievement and secure Crawford the most elevated profit of his vocation. Alec is quick to carry this high-stakes occasion to the US where its business potential is most encouraging. Alec said, "I will give Canelo my thought process is a fair cost on the off chance that he acknowledges it. He manages me to complete the arrangement. I don't need anybody in the center. I ensured Crawford a major battle. I need Canelo for Crawford, and Crawford needs Canelo. Yet, on the off chance that Canelo is insane with his monetary requests, I will in any case ensure Crawford any battle he needs, regardless of whether he prefers it." Although Schick earnestly committed to Crawford that he will not do easily at any point down the road, and it appears as though the two will team up until the end of his profession. Alal Schick educated ESPN regarding his excitement to coordinate Crawford with Zhu, the Australian champion and child of lobby of famer Costow. If a bout with Canelo isn't plausible, known for his determined style, Zhu, notwithstanding late difficulties, confronted his last loss under testing conditions. Zhu lost a limited split choice to Sebastian Bonder in their walk title session, a match defaced by an extreme trim on his temple, supported from the get-go. The tenacious progression of blood at him seriously debilitated his vision for the span of the battle. Crawford is supposed to deliver at the best level, so it's not lost on him, Crawford said. "For what reason am I the ideal person for Alash Schick's most memorable American battle? Clearly, he sees something in myself that he don't see in different warriors. He saw me as quite possibly of the best warrior in America, as he would it be advisable, for I'm the main contender on the planet right presently to date. So there's a ton of regard that accompanies Turkey and myself. The chance of confronting Canelo is one of the various variables coming down on Crawford to come out on top for tremendously. Crawford has caught championships in the lightweight, very lightweight, and welterweight divisions. In the meantime, Alvarez position as his fans' number 5 pound-for-pound fighter rules at 168 pounds and has likewise held belts at 154, 160, and 175 pounds. Alvarez has disregarded requires a battle with Crawford, telling Box Asa in February, "I don't have anything to acquire and all that to lose. Assuming that I beat him, everybody will say he was too little and only won 154 pounds out. Crawford can't conclusively show he's fit for going up against Alvarez, who battles 2 weight classes higher anyway." A definitive stoppage triumph in his lesser middleweight presentation would fundamentally support his standing, exhibiting his power at a higher weight and raising his status in the boxing scene. Hearn said, "I found that promotionally, once you grandstand his genuine character, which is truly an extraordinary character. He's a champ, he's amusing, he's driven, he's a decent family man. He ought to truly be an American genius. I think, since I believe he's a generational incredible." He further added, "While you're discussing Sugar Bean Leonard and great Marvin Hagler, he's comparable to those folks, as I would like to think, yet individuals kind of abandoned him promotionally. And afterward, I don't think he truly is out there attempting to drive his profile. I believe he's simply believing I'm 36 years of age. I have a couple of additional huge battles The monetary draw of this matchup permits Canelo to take a battle he's almost ensured to win, while as yet procuring a payout that feels like a high-stakes spectacle that is influence. When you can toss huge amounts of cash around, you use critical impact. Al Sheikh, the executive of Saudi Arabia's overall diversion authority, basically the brains behind the blossoming Riyadh season, hauls around books loaded up with unlimited free passes. The Saudi government, anxious to subsidize Al Sheikh's fantastic dreams, is ready to overpay to get the matches he needs. Subsequently, warriors, advertisers, telecasters, and media the same are scrambling to jump aboard with the rewarding open doors he's contribution. Alal Sheikh holds on to, straightforwardly communicated his craving to offer one of those worthwhile limitless tickets to ride to Alvarez with an end goal to set up a session with Terence Crawford, who has, as of late, been named a representative for Riyadh season. While cash is apparently no worry for Alec, he's on a mission to decide the value that will convince somebody like Crawford, for whom monetary contemplations have become to a lesser extent a need, to step into the ring on. Their excursion toward a collusion between the two most compelling figures in boxing, a startling turn arose. As opposed to teaming up, they wound up secured in a wild contention. Alec maybe imprudently lighted the contention by provoking Alvarez, which might have been a stumble on his part on account of significant support from Saudi financial backers. UFC 36 will be held at the Circle in Las Vegas on September 14th, with Riyadh season gladly supporting the high-profile blended hand-to-hand fighting occasion. In the meantime, only 2 miles away at the T-Versatile Field, another compensation per view conflict will unfurl as Alvarez takes on Berlanga on a similar date. The degree of direct rivalry is as yet unsure throughout the long term. The figure 5% has been nonchalantly referred to show the crossover among boxing and MMA fans. However, it needs logical sponsorship. While this rate could appear to be minor from the get-go, it's quite important that, assuming you're expecting 500,000 PPV deals for an occasion, a 5% drop means a deficiency of 25,000 possible purchasers in the great plan. Diminishing your crowd from 500,000 to 475,000 is not even close to irrelevant.